Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Team Training Tuesday. I also like to call it Applied Neolife. For the guests, you are most welcome. We like to get some background information about what we do and why we do it, and perhaps to apply it to everyday lives. My name is Ese Zanambasi. I'm a medical doctor by training. I'm also a wife, a mother, a grandmother, and hopefully we are all on the same team, and that is to make the world healthier and happier. Right, so I thought I would discuss insulin resistance, and it is something that actually causes a lot of confusion. And all of you know that insulin is very, very important. And when there's an apparent deficiency of insulin, then we call it diabetes. So I've called this a different perspective on diabetes. Insulin resistance is the consequence of eating too much sugar and refined carbohydrates. It is, in fact, the inability to keep blood sugar level even and stable. So this is how it manifests. When blood sugar is too high, when blood sugar that is too high, there is excess of it and it is changed into fat for storage. But when blood sugar is too low, the person so affected feels very fatigued, very lethargic. And that carries on for many years. And then the end result of insulin resistance is diabetes. And let us look at what is associated with insulin resistance. We have stress, and the result of that are that the hormones that control stress, particularly cortisol, is high, and other hormones are high as well. And another thing that is associated with insulin resistance is exposure to environmental hormone disrupting chemicals that one finds in pesticides and herbicides and in plastics and additives to everyday use, like in petroleum and things like that. Those are hormone disrupting chemicals. And then we also have estrogen and synthetic progestins that are used as hormone replacement and also used in contraception. There's a lot of things associated with insulin resistance and might actually be causing insulin resistance. And then let's look at this startling fact that our food supply sets us up for insulin resistance, because in order to promote high milk production, cows are treated with a growth hormone, bovine growth hormone. And then we also have insulin growth factor, IGF. Okay, so let's look at the role of inflammation and the role actually of excess blood sugar. It causes a lot of inflammation. And examples of conditions that are due to insulin resistance are what we see commonly, such as overweight and obesity. It can be all the manifestations or several of the manifestations of cardiovascular disease. And I put this there as a blanket term, but if you can imagine that there's laying down of fat, excess sugar is being changed into fat and then is being deposited in blood vessels. And if a mixture of that fat and minerals are deposited in blood vessels, that's what we call atherosclerosis. And yes, manifestations of cardiovascular disease. And then dementias, that's another condition that is due to insulin resistance. Infertility, and a lot of other associated challenges, such as fibroids, such as endometriosis, and then some autoimmune disorders. Rheumatoid arthritis has been shown to be as a result of a defective insulin and metabolism and glucose metabolism. So yes, did you know that high sugar diets are correlated to increased risk of Alzheimer's? That's exactly what I've said. Now, here are some points about diabetes. As we've said, long-term insulin resistance ends in diabetes. I'm trying to have us avoid waiting for that eventuality and being told that now you need these medications and now you need injections. That is the traditional way of approaching it. In this family that we belong to, the family on a mission to make the world healthier and happier, we totally agree with prevention and approaching conditions with the from the viewpoint of preventing them. Okay, so that's where I'm coming from. Now, diabetics cannot convert carotenoids to vitamin A. That is a given. Diets of processed foods are zinc deficient. And now you'll see where I'm going with this, because zinc is essential for blood sugar regulation, and vitamin A is stored in the liver. It requires zinc to mobilize it into the bloodstream for use. And its main use is in enzymes and hormones, and it is critically important in control of blood sugar. Just to introduce myself again to the guests, one of my favorite ways of approaching topics and helping to explain is to connect the dots. And this is what I am doing now. I'm connecting quite a few dots. Now, think about this one. Free radical production greatly increases when blood sugar is high. And that can happen even before the formal diagnosis of diabetes. And then we see a lot of people who complain about skin challenges and aging pigmentation. All those could be a telltale sign for pre-diabetes and diabetes. And then just like vitamin A and vitamin D, by the way, and now vitamin E, deficiency is more prevalent when blood sugar is high, and also in those whose weight is of a high BMI, the weight is more than it should be. So let us start talking about a few solutions. And one of them is to limit foods that look like this. Now, all of us know that a sign of, I think, affluence and what we can call, modernization is to go for foods like this. But unfortunately, because of the way they are prepared, the way the oils that are used are so much in them, and not only are they bad for us, but they are also addictive. And those tastes and the way the foods are engineered, ultimately, these foods promote oxidative stress and inflammation. So on top of the injury of high blood sugar, there's also this oxidative stress and inflammation. So ideally, we should be eating foods that look like that. But it is important to understand that, yes, all these are good, but among them are some foods and fruits like bananas and grapes that have what we call a high glycemic index or a high glycemic load. In other words, they actually cause the blood sugar to go up very high. I think even pineapples fall in that category. Whereas things like apples might not be so high in their glycemic index. And if you juice some things, the glycemic index goes high. But if you eat it as a whole fruit, then you are likely to have the fiber along with it to control the blood sugar. So I've showed this picture just so that we are aware that all the good food is good, but you have to be wise about how much of it and in what form. So here's a good carb pyramid. As you can see, the leafy and colorful vegetables have classified as carbohydrates, but they don't have as much of the carb that will push the blood sugar up as, for example, potatoes or whole grains. But we all know that whole grains are very difficult to come by because of food processing. So that's a story that you keep hearing and you will keep hearing. So ultimately, we'll look at some solutions. However, I want us to suggest that let us go back to good food, not the ultra-processed, fast, or as some people like to call it, junk food. Yes, so the subcutaneous fat accumulation and fat around the organs that we call the visceral fat. This is a sign, as a professor said, of insulin resistance, the very topic that we are discussing today. Adiposity in the middle of the body means that there is insulin resistance. And the solution to this problem of insulin resistance is not to medicate and to try and reduce cholesterol, but rather to keep the blood sugar stable. Exactly what I said at the beginning about what insulin resistance is all about. So now I know all of us like a few simple steps to get things going. This is going to be a very short presentation, by the way, because I would like us to have a discussion, if you are all up to it, afterwards. 5 steps to approach for fat burning. This is a good topic to chat about at the beginning of the year so that you prepare yourself for the rest of the year and really build your businesses. Point number 1, eat the right kind of carbohydrates to achieve a better blood sugar balance. Precisely what I said in the previous couple of slides. Eat only low glycemic load carbohydrates. In other words, for example, bread has a high glycemic load. Cassava or sweet potato might have a much lower glycemic load than, for example, rice. Okay, so you just need to learn what is going to affect the blood sugar more adversely than another food that you might want to enjoy more of. So eat only low glycemic load carbohydrates and eat them only with protein-rich foods. That is also critical. It has a way of balancing blood sugar. And also increase amount of essential fat. And be careful that it isn't too much saturated fat. You can have some saturated fat, but not too much. Okay, so wisdom. And the 5 steps continued. So I've just given you 3. Now the next 2 are cut down on stimulants such as alcohol, chocolate, cigarettes, coffee, and tea. They affect both energy levels and weight control. Isn't that amazing? And then tip number 5, eat breakfast. Have few or even no snacks between the main meals, such that you have your breakfast, then you can have something for lunch, and then you can have something for dinner. I would like us to have a discussion on time-restricted eating or intermittent fasting, as some people like to call it, but that will be in our open discussion. However, when you're considering snacks, think of low glycemic index fruits and nuts. Those make good snacks. Then I'd like us to keep remember to hydrate. Last week we talked about it. We've talked about it repeatedly. This is a time when we come together to learn how to best use what we've got in near life. And one of the things is that we need to remember to hydrate. And when we talk about hydration, we are not talking about the fizzy, fast, cool drinks. No, good clear water. You can lace it with some lemon to make it alkaline. Is a very good drink. So here are some more dots to connect. As I say, that is a favorite topic, connecting dots. You know, in the body, there is what we call sorbitol. It is a sugar alcohol that is formed in response to high blood sugar. And that sorbitol can lead to cataracts, retinal damage, in fact, eye damage, and kidney damage. And you see, a lot of people, even before they are diagnosed as outright diabetics, may develop a cataract or may develop other issues like failing kidney. All that could be traced back, if we connect those dots properly, from an out of control blood sugar. Unfortunately, some of the diet foods and some of the fast foods and drinks and beverages actually have sorbitol added to them. Now, isn't that interesting? Why I point this out is to remember to be so mindful about reading labels and avoiding processed foods and strictly sticking to whole foods. So yes, we live in a modern society with a lot of conveniences, but we also have to be so aware that they are not always good for us. Now, I want to talk about vitamin C and why it is super important. Vitamin C prevents buildup of sorbitol in the red blood cells. Vitamin C and what we have that works with vitamin C is, and we call it flavonoid complex, markedly reduces the formation of cataracts. But I just want to emphasize here that it is pointless not controlling the blood sugar through dietary modifications in the hope that you'll take all the vitamin C that you can. Okay, so we have to be careful about that one. Then something to note about vitamin C is that there is competition between glucose and vitamin C for transportation around the body. That is so important to know, because if there is high blood sugar, then the vitamin C that is very often deficient in the body, by the way. The little bit that there might be is competed with so that the sugar knocks off the vitamin C. And the result is the next point, which collagen, which needs vitamin C, will not be built in the body. Okay, so let's look at solutions to the challenges that we have mentioned about insulin resistance. And the first of the solutions is, you guessed it, exercise. The importance of exercise. I just want to point out that you do not have to be fanatically fit to lose weight. It is more important to optimize metabolism. In other words, it is more important to optimize the way your body changes food into energy than it is to become fanatical about weight loss. Okay? So that is more important. And then always remember that effects of exercise are cumulative. You can't do nothing for a long, long, long time and then hope to become to benefit from exercise when things get totally out of hand. So you need to become disciplined and consistent. And then the amount of energy used in exercise depends on how fat or fit you are to start with. The fatter and the more unfit you start with, the greater the benefits with little exercise. So that is just to encourage all of us to do some exercise and to really remain consistent. The amazing thing about exercise is that moderate exercise actually decreases appetite. So you will find that instead of overeating, you undereat. It's people who don't exercise that tend to overeat. Those who exercise eat adequately. More on the importance of exercise. Some physical activity is necessary for appetite mechanisms to work properly. The most important reason for exercise is its effect on your metabolic rate. You know, it can increase it 8 to 10 times above the resting value. The metabolic rate, as we've agreed, is the way the body changes food into energy, right? So it can be increased 8 to 10 times above the resting during activities like running, cycling, fast walking, or even walking and swimming. Vigorous exercise increases the metabolic rate, which remains elevated for up to 15 hours post-exercise. I found that to be so encouraging. And the modern way of exercising now is to do some cardio, to do some stretch. Cardio being some exercise that will raise your heart rate. That is what we call vigorous exercise. And then stretching and gentle breathing exercises are also important. That mixture will affect weight management much better than diet alone. So that's why I started by discussing exercise. And if you can do it as a group, you will get a lot of benefits of networking and of just having lots of friends. Exercise is for all ages. So as you can see, the elderly can also get some weights and strengthen their muscles. We have on a few occasions discussed that for the elderly, the loss of muscle mass with the aging process. So we need to encourage all ages, including children. So in summary, what do we advise about avoiding insulin resistance? Very simply, control intake of carbohydrates, don't overeat, and supplements are important. And so on that note, I'm going to turn our attention to the supplements by first recognizing the scientific advisory board that this family has. It was started by Dr. Arthur First in the 1970s, but he arrived to Neolife. He arrived at Neolife after Neolife had been going since 1958. He was a top toxicologist and pharmacologist and cancer researcher who advised people that a lot of these diseases could be avoided by good nutrition. And so that is the heritage that we have in this family. And as you can see, we have scientists who are all experts in their field. We had the utmost pleasure last weekend of hosting Dr. Susan Beck here in Durban, and she's on a tour around Southern Africa. So what they've taught us is that we start with core nutrition, which are foundation products, and then we add targeted solutions for specific health needs. Core nutrition is that, okay? It comprises of Pro Vitality and a shake. And I like to say that if at the beginning you can only afford 3NN, I call it the core of the core. That's a good start. But then you have to purpose to build onto it. The Pro Vitality looks like that. It has 3NN, it has omega-3, it has carotenoid complex, all of which are very, very important for preventing and managing insulin resistance. So they're crucially important. And then we have vitamins and minerals. Our multivitamin and minerals gives you what the body needs to prevent and avoid insulin resistance. Now, I just wanted to point out that our Neolife Shake is totally unique. And if you can remember my opening statement about what insulin resistance is, the inability to maintain even and stable blood sugars. Well, Neolife Shake has that as a major attribute. It helps to control blood sugar in a narrow range. We call it the glycemic control zone. It has 18 grams of protein, it has some fiber, it has vitamins and minerals, and it has low amounts of kilojoules. It doesn't have anything junky in there. This is perfect for providing the body with what the body requires to manage blood sugar and therefore prevent insulin resistance. It is indeed clinically proven to deliver results. You'll get weight loss. You will have your BMI lowered for sure. And it protects your cardiovascular system, the heart and the blood vessels. It optimizes your cholesterol levels. Now, cholesterol is important. This optimizes it so that there's an improved ratio between the high density and the low density lipoprotein cholesterol. So it's very, very important to remember that. So now let's talk about fat-burning vitamins and minerals. The ability to turn food efficiently into energy instead of fat depends on hundreds upon hundreds of enzymes, which in turn depend upon vitamins and minerals. So here's another connecting of dots, all right? So we need those enzymes. Enzymes depend on vitamins and minerals. It is therefore essential to consume optimal amounts of zinc and vitamin B6 to make insulin. Insulin's ability to control blood sugar requires chromium, another dot in the equation. This is important to stabilize blood sugar levels and therefore helps to manage weight. And so I've just put everything on one slide of what I've said. Essential to turn glucose into energy rather than fat. You need your vitamin B complex, which is a complete vitamin B made out of whole food. You need vitamin C, to ensure that there is no competition in the body for transportation. You need a lot of vitamin C on board, okay? There's no competition with glucose. And you need to be building good, healthy collagen. And then we've talked about zinc. We also need magnesium. So if you can only remember these, plus the core nutrition, plus what I have called today's star product, and that is botanical balance. And I must say, it is quite a new product. It has in it chromium. We've agreed that chromium is essential. It has cinnamon extract. Cinnamon has been shown to help with blood sugar control. It has curcumin extract and turmeric powder. Those are important in their role as anti-inflammatory and antioxidants. And it has alpha lipoic acid, which is also an important antioxidant. It's an amazing product. And I just have a testimony. I wasn't always very well weight managed, and it becomes even harder the older one grows. And then they introduced to us this star product that we call botanical balance. So I thought to myself, it's always been my principle and my policy. Any new product, I will test it out first before I can talk about it. So I started using botanical balance, not because I'm diabetic, not because my blood sugar was haywire, because I needed to see what it would do for me. And indeed, it is one of the reasons I believe I have managed to control my body's tendency to lay down fat, okay, because of better blood sugar control. So yes, just remember, like all Neolife products, there is no high fructose corn syrup, no preservatives, no gluten, no abnormal cholesterols in them, no saturated fats. And this is actually referring to the shakes mainly. So you can rest assured that it is GMO-free ingredients. In other words, no artificial anything. So for those of you who like to read the Bible, the Word, I thought I would highlight this verse again. Deuteronomy 30:19, and God tells us that He has set before us life and death, blessing and cursing. That is God talking to us. And then He, like in a multiple choice question, says, therefore choose life. Okay, this is a case in point when it comes to what we choose as far as our health is concerned. We need to learn to choose life so that both us and our descendants will live. Please read the rest of it. It is very exciting.